So today we are going to do a quick review of exponents, and we're going to look at two main areas of exponents that I want us to be familiar with, and we're going to look at how to use our calculator to do exponents. So when you were first learning math and you started learning addition and you started adding over and over and over, you came up with a way to write that a little shorter, right? So 5 plus 5 plus 5, you were eventually taught was 3 times 5. So multiplication was a way to write repeated addition. Well, now what if we have 5 times 5 times 5? What if we're multiplying the same thing over and over and over again? Well, that's where exponents come in. Exponents are repeated multiplication. So 5 times 5 times 5 is 5 to the third power. So you take that bottom number, that is called the base, and you multiply it by itself the number of times that the top number tells you. And that top number is called an exponent, or a power. Okay, so that's the exponent or the power. Like I said, I want to look at two main things. And the first thing is exponents and negatives. So your calculator is going to be your best friend here if you plug things into the calculator correctly. You're going to need things like your parentheses signs above your 8 and 9. You're going to need the negative sign down below the 3. And then you're going to need the power key. So find the 7, and to the side of it, you see x squared. That is a quick way of squaring a number, or a power of 2. And above it, you see this little up arrow. Do you see the little up arrow above the x squared key? That is called a caret. That is something you will see in math or English. On our calculator, it is the power key. Power key. It is what is going to raise things to powers for us. Okay, so not like where we're not going to have to enter the same number over and over and over and hope we don't miscount. So let's look at these two problems here. The first one, they look very similar, right? They both got a negative, they both got a 2, they both got a 4. This one doesn't have parentheses and this one does. Okay, so first let me show you what they mean. So when the negative is not in parentheses, that means the negative is not part of the base. So this is really negative 1 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so this means I'm going to use my negative one time. When it's not in parentheses, use the negative once. So in our calculator, we're going to hit the negative key, that's below the 3, then the 2, then the power key, that's above that x squared key, then the 4, and then hit your equal. And you should get negative 16, because negative 1 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is negative 16. Now, over here, when it is in the parentheses, that means that negative is part of the base. That means we need to use that negative 2 4 times. So this is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Now, we're not going to write this out every time. I'm just doing it this way to show you the difference between this problem and this problem. So in your calculator, hit your open parentheses. That's above the 8. Then your negative, then 2, then close parentheses, then your power key, then 4, and then your enter or your equals. And you should get that it's positive 16. So notice the parentheses made a difference. Here, the negative was just used one time. So a negative times all these positives gave me a negative. Here, the negative was used 4 times. So a negative times a negative times a negative times a negative gave me a positive. But if you will put things in your calculator exactly like you see them, you should get the right answer and not have to worry about that negative. So here is negative 3 in parentheses squared. I want you to use your calculator and see if you can get the correct answer here. All right, you should get a positive 9 because this means -3 times -3, which is a positive 9. To do it in your calculator, you've got two options here since it's squared. You can do parentheses, -3, close parentheses, caret, or your power key, 2 equals, or you can do all of that and it has to be in parentheses, then your x squared key and your equal. So you should get 9. So make sure you can put that in your calculator and get a positive 9. The next one is -2 to the fifth power. Notice it's not in parentheses. See if you can do this one in your calculator. You should get -32. Notice I didn't put any parentheses in my calculator because there weren't any parentheses in the problem. This is -1 times 2 to the fifth, so I get -32. Now we're going to do fractions and exponents. And again, your calculator can handle this. You're going to use your power key. You're going to use parentheses. The parentheses are going to be important. And remember, your fraction key is that ABC button, right? It's 3 buttons above the 7. So we're going to use that um, to put in fractions. But first, let's talk about what it means. So 2/3 to the third power means 2/3 times 2/3 times 2/3, which is 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, and 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So that's 8 to the 27th, or I'm sorry, not to the 27th power, 8/27ths. But in my calculator, I would do open parentheses, then I would hit 2, then ABC, then 3, and it will look like that 2 backwards L3 in your calculator, then close parentheses, then power, then 3, then hit equal, and you should see 8/27. So that is how you would put that in your calculator. So now I want you to do 1/2 to the fifth power, give your answer as a fraction. Did you get 1/32? Here's how you would put it in your calculator. Open parentheses, 1, ABC, 2, close parentheses, power key, 5, equals, and you should get 1/32. Notice if you multiply a fraction over and over and over again, if it's a proper fraction, you end up getting a smaller valued fraction. Okay, let's try one more with a negative. Pay attention to your parentheses, pay attention to your negatives. See if you can get -2/5 raised to the fifth power. Okay, our calculators did not like this one, right? It gave me a decimal and it would not change it to a fraction for me. I put it in just like this. I tried several ways and it never would change it to a fraction for me. So remember that -2/5 to the fifth power means -2/5 times itself 5 times. Since I'm multiplying a negative 5 times, my answer is negative. I can do 2 to the fifth power in my calculator. That's 32. And then 5 to the fifth power, do 5, power key, 5 equals, gave me 3,125. So this as a fraction is -32 over 3,125. So if it won't handle it for you, you'll have to write it out. But hopefully, most of the problems we see, it'll take care of it for us.